Welcome in, everybody, to another week of UFL Weekly. I am Kyle Krajewski, joined by Mr. Beautiful, Mr. Fantastic, Zach Cole. Zach, week six in the books, heading into week 7. I'll let you get your gloating out first. How you doing, my man?
Well, I am doing much better because my Michigan Panthers laid the wood to DC this week. So
Jeez.
that was big time. That was the most convincing win of the week. And really, even though you beat me in our weekly picks this week, and we didn't stink it up as much as we did the week prior, we did much better on the bets this week. But even though you beat me, this was my victory for the week, getting the Michigan W, and really, I think solidifying themselves as a contender in this league.
Yeah, I think if I had to uh, really rank these teams, I think Michigan this past week just like launched themselves up to the front. Um, I don't know how you can walk away from that game. I mean, probably walking into that game, we saw a DC team that was probably number one, um, and then Michigan just hosts them and just completely dominates them. And now I think we're seeing Michigan number one. If we were to do power rankings, probably Michigan, and then maybe it's still DC, and then I think it's just everybody else, and then a very clear uh, bottom of the ring in the power ranks here. But we'll get into all that. Weekly recap last week. Let's just get into it. Uh, Battlehawks kicked off the last week. Friday night, they won 12-6 in what was uh, looking to be a really great matchup, but kind of held its own and just being a low scoring affair. Um, our game of the week, though, Memphis Showboats versus the Roughnecks, really held its own. The Roughnecks beat the Showboats 21-20. Love to see that.
It was a good game.
Um, as Zach mentioned, the Michigan Panthers just dominated the defenders. Um, 38-14. That is an insane score. Uh, we'll skip right past that. And then the Birmingham Stallions just walloped the San Antonio Brahmas 26-3. That 9.5 point line that the Stallions had last week was clearly not enough, because that's absurd. Week 7, though, coming up, though, we have we got some good matchups here. This first
We
one's
definitely do.
interesting. This
Hmm.
first one's interesting. Um, but we've got some good ones lined up here for week 7. We'll kick us off here. Friday night. Oh, before I go into this, all right, Friday night. All these games, I want to preemptively state that our game picks are not betting advice. We just do our game picks to just for bragging rights. Zach and I just keep a tally here, and you guys obviously know how we're standing. I'm currently with the better performance, but we are presently both sitting well under 500. And that is why this is not betting advice. This is just
Yes.
us making our picks, telling you, the viewer, the listener, what we think this game's going to turn out, especially based on how Vegas is perceiving them.
Right.
So, without further ado, Friday night, under the lights, we have the DC Defenders walking into San Antonio facing the Brahmas. The Defenders are 4-2. San Antonio Brahmas are 1-5. The 1-5, though, the one was against the DC Defenders when they beat this Defenders team in week 4. Um, a shock to many then, and I think after the past few weeks from San Antonio is a much bigger shock. Because I feel like after that win, San Antonio has just
Yeah,
seen some decline. So
definitely.
that's why I say this game's going to be interesting. DC, this defense just got manhandled last week by Michigan. I say by Michigan, but really Bryce Perkins just like had everybody on skates. So props to him. We'll talk about him after this game. Um, but I, I was shocked that they couldn't handle anything last week. However, wide receiver Chris Rowland was a really big bright spot. Rowland and Teamo both had really good games, just could not keep up, could not keep scoring. But Rowland now leads the league in receiving yards. Had a huge 65-yard receiving touchdown, which I thought was going to be the beginning of a turnaround, but clearly was not. On the San Antonio side, Brahmas appear to be moving forward with quarterback Kevin Hogan. As we are recording this, I think the depth chart like literally just came out as we're recording this. I'm opening it up. Yep, Kevin Hogan is the starter, which was like announced after we had recorded last week, which is why I'm like, what is it this week? Moving forward, keep moving with Kevin Hogan. And the Brahmas just added D. Anderson from Memphis. They did a little bit of a trade. But truthfully, I don't have too many bright spots to discuss. This team looks rough as ever. They can't seem to score. They can't seem to slow down opposing teams offensively or like on defense. Things just aren't working. And I think that's why they made the trade for Anderson. They just need a guy to kind of stand up. Zach and I memed with each other during the Brahmas game with John Trey Kirkland dropping and just continuing to run and just sit in the stand to be like, damn, man, he cooked the defender, had it in his hands, and just lost
Dropped
it.
it.
Just like,
Dropped it. Yep.
you know what? I might as well just be a spectator here. So yeah, DC versus San Antonio. DC though, spread favors them quite heavily. DC is favored -8.5. Over under set to 37.5. Zach, what do you feel here?
Well, I think that the DC defenders are going to be good and pissed off after what happened a couple weeks ago in their matchup where they dropped the game to San Antonio. So I am actually going to take DC -8.5. I think that one, they're also going to be reeling from last week's loss to Michigan. They're going to be
Yeah.
looking to put up some points. Two, they hate that the Brahmas beat them the first time around, so they are going to be looking to exact some revenge here. So I am going to go ahead and say that DC -8.5 is my pick, and I'm going to take the under in this game just because the San Antonio team can't really stay consistent,
Yeah.
whether it's scoring a million points or scoring 3 points. They either seem to do one or the other, and it doesn't seem to me like they're trending the right way. Kevin Hogan wasn't particularly incredible for them last week, so I don't have a ton of faith in what it is that they're doing. We mentioned you mentioned John Trey Kirkland as being one of the lone bright spots, but even he seems to kind of be fading in a team that's just not very good this year. So give me DC -8.5 and give me the under in this game. What are you thinking?
Ooh. I think I'm going to join you on both of these picks. I think DC again. You kind of. I'm just reiterating what you just said. I think DC needs to bounce back, and I think they will. If there's any team to bounce back against, it's San Antonio. We saw it with Birmingham last week, and I think 8.5 feels good. But also an under. I think DC also kind of struggles on like the punching it in the end zone bit of things, uh, allowing them to kind of keep things a little bit under. But I think we're going to see a struggling San Antonio Brahmas team also struggle to just put points on the board. So I'm with you. DC -8.5, under 37.5.
Beautiful. Moving into our second game of the weekend, we have the Michigan Panthers, my Michigan Panthers. That flag is firmly planted, Kyle. And they are going to Arlington to take on the Renegades. That is the early game on Saturday. It is a 1 o'clock kickoff. The Panthers sit at 4-2, and the Renegades sit at 3-3. This is definitely a pretty good matchup, I would say. Michigan is only favored right now by 3 points. They are -3 in the spread, and the over/under is set at 42.5. Michigan is coming off of a pretty dominant performance against DC, where Bryce Perkins was the offensive player of the week again. I believe it's his second or third time winning it. And he probably pretty clearly, I would say, looks like the MVP candidate to go with right now. I think he's kind of got a stranglehold on it. I don't want to speak too soon because there are still week 7, 4 weeks left to play. So we'll see what happens. He is 8th in rushing yards in the league right now. He's tied for first in rushing touchdowns with his own teammate Toa Tawa. I don't want to be saying that wrong.
Toa.
Toa Tawa, and he is 3rd in pass yards and 2nd in pass touchdowns. He's just filling up the
Yeah.
stat sheet week in, week out.
It's an Adrian Martinez situation again.
Yes, definitely. Much like last year we saw with Martinez. It almost seems inevitable at this point. So knock on wood, let's hope he stays healthy. The defense showed up when they needed them to this past week, holding DC to only 14 points. Teamo and the boys, Abram Smith couldn't get it rolling against them. So it looked great. They really looked like a complete team, and it makes me confident in their potential championship aspirations. However, this week they have Arlington on the schedule. They need to focus on Arlington, who put up a dud last week also. I would say San Antonio and Arlington were kind of the two mehs of the week, the poor performances of the week, where we only saw 6 points from this Arlington team. Luis Perez wasn't particularly sharp. I believe he only had about 140 yards passing and an interception. The one bright side for them, if there was one, was Day Hunter, who kind of stuffed the stat sheet on both in both the rushing game and the receiving game. He had 47 yards on the ground, 41 yards through the air. So kudos to him. It seems like they're going in the wrong direction right now, and they're kind of spiraling after losing Kalen Ballage. Also, he is out for the season. Luckily, they do also have Day. They have some depth in the rushing game, so hopefully they'll be able to piece that together and find some other options moving forward. But Davion Smith's another name there as well, off the top of my head. So we'll see what happens for them. But with all that being said, Michigan's kind of trending the right way. Arlington seems to need to figure some things out still. But Kyle, what's your pick? Michigan is favored by 3 points right now, and again, the over/under is 42.5.
Dude, it somehow feels like Michigan is getting better every week, and Arlington floating the same. And for that, I'm going to take Michigan -3. I don't want to understate how good this Arlington defense is, though. So if there is a way to slow down Michigan, it's probably the Renegades here. But I think Michigan's going to still take care of business here. So give me Michigan -3.
Okay, nice.
Give me the under. Give me under 42. I think. Yeah, give me 42, under 42. I think Michigan is going to be the scorer in this game, but as we saw last week, a 12-6 affair against the St. Louis Battlehawks, against the Battlehawks who had beaten the Panthers the week before. I think this Renegades defense is good. I think they're going to slow down Michigan. I think Michigan's still going to win, but I think there's just going to be a lot less points. So temper expectations, everybody, on points in this game is just what I'm saying. But I think it's going to be Michigan -3, under 42.5.
Yeah, I like Michigan to win this one in dominant fashion. I think that they are a lock at -3. Again, not betting advice. That's just my own personal opinion. But I think Michigan -3 is a very, very safe bet this week. They are, like you said, trending in the right direction. They seem to find the end zone at a pretty high clip. So I love that pick, Michigan -3. And I'm also going to go under, Kyle, but that's more on Arlington and them not being able to find the end zone. I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago, where they just can't seem to punch it in for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think the under is pretty safe in this one also. I was actually kind of surprised that it had such a high over-under total.
Well, I think you see 38 coming from Michigan last week and be like, oh, there's got to be points in this one.
Definitely. But I also think maybe you alluded to this. I was checking on something, but I also think that holding the Battlehawks to 12 points last week was a big deal for Arlington as well. You know, that's no small feat, especially after we saw Max Duggan step in and seem to be QB1 for them. I thought for sure that we were going to have more than 12 points this week from them. So, you know,
I think we both picked the over, but
yeah, Yeah, definitely. That's just a testament. This Arlington defense is definitely for real. So, again, all that just goes to say that I think the under is definitely going to hit in this game also.
Perfect. Third game of the week, first Sunday game, Sunday at noon Eastern time. We have the Houston Roughnecks taking on the Birmingham Stallions. Uh, Roughnecks currently 3-3. Stallions currently 4-2. I will do a brief standings recap after our game previews because things look spicy.
Hmm.
But presently, this is a fight for second in this conference, in this USFL conference, which is crazy to say considering the Roughnecks started off looking really rough, pun intended. Uh, the Stallions won this last matchup in week 4, 23-16. This was the first game Jalen McClendon kind of really stepped in and became the guy. Houston, I would argue, is the second hottest team in the league right now, right behind Michigan. They're getting some close wins, but it really feels like they're improving week to week, figuring things out, especially as McClendon continues to be the guy. I think he should be the guy moving forward. I think he's the real deal for this offense. I just really enjoyed seeing him play. On the Stallion side, they got the bounce back game they needed last week. It seems like San Antonio is just going to be bounce back team to play every week because DC needs it. Stallions got it last week. Um, they do unfortunately need to keep Case Cookus in a security blanket. This team is just getting plagued by quarterback injuries. We've seen it, I think, with like 3 or 4 quarterbacks on this team right now, where Cookus is just kind of forced to be the guy. Um, Ricky Person Jr. kind of being the guy on the ground too. I think he's going to continue to be the guy there. I know they have kind of a running back room that sort of rotates, but I think Person can be the reliable one. Um, with all that, Birmingham is favored to win this one, -6. Over under set to 38.5. So Vegas has Stallions kind of coming away with a pretty handy win again. Um, but Zach, I'm just going to take my picks right here. I'm going to take Roughnecks Roughnecks +6.
Mm.
Uh, I think this Roughnecks, as I said, they're improving week to week, and I think they gave him a little bit of a tough matchup the last time they played. Sure, it came down to 7-point win. It was a 7-point win on the Stallions side. However, I think since then, Roughnecks have gotten better, where the Stallions have just kind of maybe improved a little bit, maybe started to figure some things out, but I haven't seen as much improvement from the Stallions as I have on the Roughnecks. So I'm taking Roughnecks +6. Um, I'm going to take the over too, though. I
Mm.
think we could see something similar to what we saw against Memphis last week or Memphis Houston last week, where it's going to be like a 20-21 affair. I see this happening again. Both teams kind of scoring in the 20s, and Houston kind of coming away with a closer loss if it's a lose, but maybe a win. I think this is a Houston team that just feels like they want it more. So give me Houston +6 over 38.5.
Well, this is our first one. We're going to go opposite on here because I'm
Oh,
going to take Birmingham -6. I think that we are not giving Birmingham the credit that they deserve at this point. I
okay.
think we are not seeing them dominate as convincingly as they did last year. I mean, it was almost every single week we were like, "Oh my God, this is the best! This is the best team in
Yeah,
the league. This is
it
the best
was
team."
ridiculous.
And really, we're talking about a team that's tied for first in the league overall at 4-2 with the Panthers. So this is a very good team, and I think despite only winning by 7 in the first game, I mean, they took care of business this past week against a poor
Yeah,
Brahmas team. I'll admit that, but 26-3 is not an accident by any stretch of the
no,
mind. So I think this team is very good. I don't think that they're going to overlook an opponent, and I think that they're well aware that Houston's trending in the right direction and is playing some good football right now. So I like them -6 in this one. And I'm going to ride with you on the over. I do think that some points are going to be put on the board. I think Houston is absolutely trending the right way. Jalen McClendon, as you mentioned, Kyle, is providing a spark for this Houston team, and we almost wish that he was the guy, evidently the guy all along, because he clearly is pushing them in the way that they want to go. So I think for me, it is going to be Birmingham -6, and I will take the over as well with you at 38.5.
Love it.
All right, and as for our final game of the week, we have the Battlehawks taking on the Boats Baby Boats. I love sending that to Kyle. Boats Baby
Every
Boats.
time.
we love the boats here. Neither of us love the boats, but we love the boats. So the
We
Battlehawks
do
and the
love it.
Showboats are the last team, the last game of the week this week. They are playing the 3 o'clock slate on Sunday afternoon. St. Louis is sitting at 4-2. Memphis is sitting at 1-5. St. Louis is favored by only 4 points in this one, which I think is kind of interesting, Kyle. That's a little bit lower of a spread than I think one would expect, especially since our other game between a 4-2 and a 1-5 is an 8.5 point spread. So this is a little interesting. Maybe that says what Vegas thinks about St. Louis. But again, St. Louis is -4. The over/under is at 39 points right now, a nice even 39. So St. Louis is coming. You like that, right? Just no half point, just 39.
What's going to be annoying is that this game's going to be a game won by St. Louis by 4 points, and the total is going to be 39, and both picks are going to be pushes.
That's it. Hey, everyone's just
Everyone wins.
not happy. Everyone's just completely indifferent in that situation. So it's like it never happened. But anyhow, St. Louis, as I mentioned, coming off a 12-6 win against Arlington. We shouted out Arlington's defense because they seem to be shutting teams down, and that was no different with St. Louis this week. St. Louis struggled to find the end zone. They did once, however, and it was on the man, the myth, the legend, Hakeem Butler, who completed the Randy Moss stat line. It took him 2 games,
Jeez.
but another 1 catch, 30 yards, 1 touchdown, just ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. So that puts him now in the last 2 games at 3 receptions, 3 touchdowns, and 150 yards on the season, really, since he's come back. So
Yeah.
just incredible for him. The Battlehawks did have the Defensive Player of the Week, Peta Taumupenu. I believe I am saying that right. Had 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles, so that was a big deal for him. And as we saw, they held the Renegades to only 6 points in that game, so clearly the defense was kicking. And speaking of kicking, Hot Rod is back, and he is a
good.
St. Louis Battlehawk. He is maybe he's this year's Jake Bates. Maybe he's getting back in. He was the special team player of the week, and he knocked through a couple field goals for the Battlehawks in this one. So shout out Hot Rod, Rodrigo Blankenship. Love seeing the goggles. Love seeing him back in
I was
action.
going to say, people love the goggles.
He's awesome. I don't know if you've ever stumbled across any of his videos or anything on his social pages.
He's a great TikTok follower.
He's an interesting guy. Loves Legos. I think that's his thing.
Yeah.
So shout out Hot Rod. But I don't want to talk too much without mentioning the Showboats. They suffered a very tough, close-fought loss in Week 6 here against the Roughnecks. That was 21-20. Stinks. They were so close to getting the job done. It was 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, the typical 20 points that you would think of, and they just came up short. And unfortunately, there was some more salt in the wound on that one because they could have won the game coming down towards the end of the game, where EJ Perry, who had stepped in for Dresser Wynn, who was injured in this game, missed Jonathan Adams on a long touchdown, and it just hurts. That could have been a really, really big win for them, a really season defining win, I think, for them, and maybe spark the turnaround, but it didn't happen. And that kind of seems to just be the deal with the Showboats this year, where they are there, but they just can't swing the door open all the way to kind of start moving in the right direction. So I do think, despite all the despite the spread and despite kind of the over-under and the records, I think that this might be a closer game than most people are expecting. St. Louis, we're still looking to see if they're for real or not with Duggan. And the Showboats they seem to be in most of the games that they're playing this season. So, Kyle, with that being said, -4, St. Louis is favored, over-under 39. What are your picks?
First off, I got to reiterate that while I may be a Defenders fan, Zach may be a Showboats fan. The
Panthers fan.
UFL, Panthers. What did I say?
Showboats.
Oh, the show is a Showboats fan. We're
Boats, baby, boats.
we can't help but root
We're
for this
getting it
team.
tatted. Boats, baby, boats.
With that being said, this the Showboats are not a 1-5 team. They're last week they lost by 1. The week before they beat the Stallions. 4 feels it's tricky. 4 feels right.
Kyle, would you? I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought here, but I think that they're more so in the range of the Roughnecks than they are in the range of the Brahmas. Do you agree with that?
It's so tricky because, yes, I would agree. I think we can dissect this at a different time. But I think it's like Michigan, Defenders. I think the Battlehawks are like right there, and I think the Stallions might be right. Maybe it's like Battlehawks and Stallions together. And then I think it's like Renegades, Showboats floating in the same range. Actually, Roughnecks too. Roughnecks might
Roughnecks, yeah, and then Renegade, Showboats somewhere
Renegades,
together,
I think you're right. Yeah, I think they're like same
and then the
range. Like they should
Brahmas.
have, yeah, and Brahmas. I think like this, the Showboats team should have more wins. They lost by 1 last week. They lost by 1 in week 3, both to the Roughnecks, which is funny. Maybe they just are identical teams. 4 feels right though. I think the Battlehawks are going to come away with the win. I think they are the better team. I don't want to get lost in the whole Showboats are better than what they really are. I think the Battlehawks are still the better team and come away with a win. So give me St. Louis -4. And honestly, again, not betting advice, but if there's anything crazy you want to do, it's probably Hakeem Butler, 1 catch, 1 touchdown. Or like every catch is going to be a touchdown. If that, like, sure, that's fun. Don't do it though. Don't take my advice. St. Louis -4. Give me the over. If the Roughnecks can score 20 on this Battlehawks team or on this Showboats team, I think the Battlehawks are going to see plenty of points. But I also see the Showboats. I want to see how healthy Dresser Wynn is, but I'm going to take the over. I think the Showboats have plenty of talent on offense to get some points in. And I see Zach's doing what I thought he was going to do. Yeah. St. Louis -4, over 39. Zach, let's hear it.
Yeah, this week is just not exciting in terms of our picks or anything, Kyle. I think we are very much on the same page. I
We
think
have
what
one pick different. Oh, great.
I think what I want to say about I think we're figuring out the league as a whole. I think we're really kind of starting to get some separation. Those first couple weeks were just like chaos. We had no idea what to expect. We were going off of last year. We were going off of pre-assumed predestined assumptions of people, that kind of stuff. But I think now we're getting a very clear picture. And with all that being said, I'm tailing you on both of these picks, Kyle. I'm going St. Louis -4. I do think Memphis is they're plucky. They're a fun team. They like to stay in battles and stuff. But I do think that St. Louis is the better team here, and I do think that we're going to see points. Clearly, Dresser Wynn is a big deal if he is healthy to go. Clearly, he made that offense move in the right direction and put points on the board. So if Dresser Wynn's going, points ahoy! I think that's for sure gonna the boat puns are just flowing today. I don't
boat baby boats
boats baby boats. So all that's to say, I do think that there are going to be points in this game, but I do think St. Louis is still the better team and are still a tier above this Memphis team. So St. Louis -4 over 39, lock and load it.
Perfect. We have one different pick this week. So if you want to follow along, I have Houston +6. Zach has Birmingham -6. Everything else, if it's wrong, it's on both of us.
It's wrong for both of us.
Quick DFS note, because I know I've got some people clamoring for this. Don't doubt the Teamu Rowland stack this week against San Antonio. It was successful last week. It's going to be successful again this week, I believe. And then cheaper running back, Day Hunter out of Arlington for the Renegades. I think he's kind of the value, or like he's going to be in a lot of my lineups this week. 6,200 salary, and in line for more work with no Balaj. We saw last week he's going to get receiving
Mhm,
work,
mhm.
much more usage out of the backfield. So I think Day Hunter kind of is the guy to play on a lot of my lineups here. And then real quick, I want to mention, we didn't mention this at the top. The XFL conference and USFL conference, the standings are identical. Both have two 4-2 teams. DC and St. Louis and XFL, Birmingham and Michigan and USFL. Both have a 3-3 team. Arlington and Houston, and then both have a 1-5. Memphis and San Antonio. And with 4 games left, there are no teams out yet of playoff contention. I think
Wow.
this week is where we might see that take place, with certain losses, certain wins. Um, but it's just really funny to me that this league of parity is identical across the board between the USFL and XFL conferences. And I think this is the week we see a little bit more separation, especially as some of these teams kind of look to get their 4th win, their 5th, win 5 of the season. It's fun. I especially love that St. Louis and DC both have 131 points for. So there's a real fight here for the top of the XFL conference. But overall, love to see it. Love to see that these two conferences are competing in similar fashion.
Very competitive league this year. Very.
Love to see it. So without further ado, thank you for tuning in. It was a pleasure talking to you, Zach. If you are
Always.
listening to us, you can find us on YouTube. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can find us on podcast platforms, wherever you tune in. Throw us on in the car. If you have no time to just sit in your car and watch us on your phone, you can just listen to us. So, with all that, again, thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to rate, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us how much you also like the Memphis Showboats, or if you hate them. Sure,
Boats, baby,
let us know.
boats. Let's see it. Let's see a flood of comments.
We gotta know. We gotta know. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here every week. And Zach, it was an absolute pleasure chatting with you. See you next week.
See ya.